Today we're going to do a picture of the snowman from the Snowman movie story. It started as a book written by Raymond Briggs. It's actually an illustration book. The entire thing is done in pictures. There's no words. Okay? It's like a comic book almost, but with no words. And we are going to work on this style of the snowman. I'm going to use watercolors and crayons, but you can do the whole thing in crayons if you want to. The watercolor, if you're using watercolor, then we're making what's called a crayon resist painting. And the watercolor is just going to be the background. Okay. So the very first way we're going to start is we're going to make a round part, not at the very top, but close to the top. You're going to make a very round head. Okay, it's pretty good size. All right, and I'm going to make it darker than you should so that you can see it well. You should make it with just like really feathery strokes so that you don't see a pencil line afterward. Now next, the snowman doesn't have a neck because this is like a ball of snow resting on the snowman. So his shoulders are going to come right out from this part of his head. And it's going to come out like this. And that's his arm. So his arm doesn't really have a bent shoulder like we have, but is round like this and then stops. Same thing on the other side. Okay. And it kind of curves in, but his arms are resting on his sides. So his body comes down like this. Okay. And there isn't a waist. He's got a big belly. There's no waist. His arms are going to go straight into his legs. I mean, his waist is going to go straight into his legs, so there's no waist there. It's just this almost a straight line. And then between his legs, see him like that, and his feet, he actually looks like he almost has feet. Okay, this is the shape of his body. It's not skinny, it's pretty wide. And if you feel like it needs to be wider at any point, like I think I'm going to make this line a little bit wider. Then erase your line, make it come out a little further. Okay. Now, he has 3 buttons on his front that the boy makes with rocks or coal. He has 2 eyes here, but his eyes are closer to the middle of his head, so that's important. His nose is an orange, not a carrot. And his smile is drawn on there with some coal. Okay? Now, he is wearing a scarf, but the more important thing is he's wearing a hat. And it's more of a hat like you would see, you know, a man wearing. So, we're going to make the rim, it has to cover his head. We'll erase the part of the head that we wouldn't see in a minute. And I make this line that looks like this. It's almost like I make the base of a triangle. And then I make this top part kind of saggy, coming down, and then this part of the head I would not see, so I'm going to erase that part of the head. Okay. So now he looks like he wears a hat, and for the scarf, you only see a little bit that's wrapped around here, but you do see the more shaggy part coming around like that. Okay. Now, the colors that you choose. When you color the snowman, you have to press really hard if you're using the watercolor, because that's how the watercolor will not stick to it. It's kind of like the haunted house picture we did. You don't want the watercolor to go through the snowman. You want wherever the crayon is, if you press hard enough, it will resist the watercolor, and the watercolor will end up just everywhere else. Okay, so I'm going to make his nose orange, and I'm going to press really hard. I'm going to make his eyes black, and I'm going to press really hard. And these, which are the coal pieces. His hat and his scarf are green, but his hat is kind of 2 different greens in some places. So if you wanted to use 2 different greens, you could. I just have 1 green, so I'm going to stick with just 1 green, and then I might add a little yellow into it so it looks a little shaded. I'll show you. But notice I'm pressing really hard. And a lot of times when you're pressing really hard, you break your crayons. But that's okay, because crayons, when you break them, now you have 2. It doesn't really matter. Okay? They still work. I'm going to cover that up a little bit like that. And I make sure I don't have any white paper showing through, because wherever there's white paper, then the watercolor is going to stick through. I'm going to do the same thing in his scarf. I'm going to press really hard. And his scarf has kind of a plaid print in the book. It has kind of a plaid print on it, which is almost like a checkerboard pattern with different colors of yellow and green. You can see the stitches in it. And that's going to be hard to do with pressing hard, but you might be able to get it in there. I'm just going to add a little bit of yellow in there so it looks different. Okay. Now his mouth, I'm going to have to draw his mouth with this, because if I don't, it won't show up. All right. Now the rest of it, oh, I forgot. I'm going to do the edges of his body with gray so he looks a little bit three-dimensional. I'm pressing really hard right here, kind of where, you know, to make him look a little bit more round. I'm going to press like this between his legs. Okay. Around here. Around his head. Okay. The rest of him needs to be white, and you have to press hard. The hard part about doing that is it's hard to tell where you have colored and where you haven't colored. Sometimes you have to like hold your paper up at an angle, and you can sometimes see like the shiny part of the wax and see where you've colored. And you also have to be careful if you use the white over the black or the orange and you smear those other colors into it, because that won't go away. You want to try to stay in the lines, because if you don't, it won't look like it's in the right spot. Right? So as I go around the buttons, I go a little slower so that I don't smear the black. I'm pressing really hard. My arm is getting tired, so every once in a while I may have to stop and stretch out your hand, because your hand will get tired from pressing hard with crayon. But you'll be pleased if you do press hard and you cover the whole space. You'll be pleased the way it comes out. Okay. It's okay if you overlap the gray a little bit, because it actually blends it. Going around his face is going to be a little trickier. Probably would have been better to do those colored pieces after the white. Around here, go around his mouth. Got to go under his nose, around his nose. Okay, I think I got most of them. I'm going to look really closely at where my shiny parts of my white are. I think I missed some here. All right. And I think I pretty much got it. So the next part I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put a little bit of snow on the ground around him. This was pressing hard with my, oh, see, broke it. Pressing hard with my white crayon. I'm going to look like he's standing in the snow. Now, with my water, I'm going to use a lot of water on this, because this is where you want to be able to spread it, and you want the crayon to just kind of seep through. So I'm going to wake up my blue by just dropping some water in it. Let it soak in a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit of water to my painting so that I can spread it around. This way, when my blue starts, it's going to blend right in and go right around my snowman really easily. Okay, where those drips are, just looks like it's a little bit of rain on him. Okay. You actually can, those little bubbles that are forming over him, you could probably even, scoop up with tissue paper or something like that. They'll dry. And you have yourself the snowman from the Snowman story. And there you go. Have a good time.